Okay, welcome to the Helen Plum Library Board of Trustees meeting for May 21st, 2024 at 7 p.m. Please stand. The meeting is called the consent of the president. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Allison, I'm taking, just so if I make a mistake, just patience, please.
Yeah.
Allison Pickett-Floyd,
Here.
Sue Wiggins,
Here.
Kristen Armstead Walsh,
Here.
Julie Kowalski Schmidt,
Here.
Jennifer Erickson,
Here.
Ginger Kearney,
Here.
Kelly Ann Sims.
Okay, thank you. Does not appear that we have anyone here for public comment. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda as stands.
Sorry. All in favor, say. Okay, may I have another motion for approval of the consent agenda items? No second. Okay, is there any discussion?
I just saw, page 1 of the cast and the report. I think there's a type of the date.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was like, that's been the longest time here. Don't embarrass it.
Okay, anything else? Okay,
This one, yeah, thank you. I thought it was such a confidence, I'm like, and then I confirmed. So it's the state here. If you want to look, so.
Yeah.
okay, anything else? All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of adopting of approving of the consent agenda items, say aye. Aye. Any, okay, motion carries. Okay, moving on to committee reports. All committee would be Kelly, am I correct?
The committee did not meet.
Okay, thank you. So we can look to change our next.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just jumped in.
Decennial committee, we obviously met on May 6th and the front report
It's ready for you
is
to
ready
sign.
for you to serve. It's the update and that will conclude the decennial committee for the next decade. Okay, moving on, director relations committee.
We met today
Okay.
and started the follow-up meetings to discuss the trustees also about it.
Thank you. Okay, policy and bylaws committee. We did not. So, is there any unfinished business? I don't see anything. All right. Moving on to new business. So our first item is discussing considerations for a letter of recommendation for Midwest Soaring Foundation. Ginger, can I ask you to say a little bit more about
Yes,
that?
yes. So the Midwest Soaring Foundation is a group that is trying to set up a community resource center in Churchill Woods. The building that is there, they want to renovate and they need to ask for grant money for that. So they are asking for people within the community to help them with their grant proposals and to send in recommendations for that. So being that they are one of the groups that helped us with our land acknowledgement, I think it is a wonderful way for us to help them by reciprocating that.
So how could
We would be adding to their just a second, I have, yeah. See, we would add to their recommendation by us writing one of their letters, and I have a sample letter for them. If we would like to do that, that would be very easy for us so that we can help them get their grant money. It's going to take quite a bit for them to renovate that building, but then once they have it together, they would be a wonderful resource for the neighborhood.
So it's obviously a long-term project. So we were gonna have a discussion about it at this time, so anybody can get their questions and then we'll put the agenda in the future.
If you have to move forward with drafting a letter to review it and then.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's the initial request, is letter of support. Since Ginger brought the idea to Anna and me, and so we put it on the agenda as a discussion.
Would it be environmental letter as a board, library, both?
That's up to
Oh.
us, how we wanted to handle that. We could as two separate entities or as one entity.
Anything else?
Who are they, do you know, who they're going for the grant with? Is it state?
There's multiple grants. There's a federal grant, there is a state grant, and then there's two private grants that I know of.
And we're basically just. A letter of support is basically something, I mean, I'll look at the same, we probably should, maybe copy it, make sure we all get a copy or email it to us some way so we can look at it. But just a letter saying this is a organization, they do good things in the community and, we acknowledge their effort and support their.
Yes.
All right, something like. All right, so that's the discussion unless anybody has any other questions, but we'll wait till we see the letter and we'll put it up for further discussion. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you, Ginger.
Did anyone have a preference as to whether this would be a joint statement from the board and the library as a whole, or is this a board initiative?
I would like to see the sample letter and get a feel for that and they to get to have make that decision. Yeah, because I feel.
We need-
Yep. Yeah. No, sure, Woods is pretty big. Which building is thinking of renovating?
So right as you're on St. Charles,
Okay.
right there on the very front of Churchill Woods, there is the so like a limestone building. And right now it says do not enter and it's kind of marked off with police tape. That's the building, because right now there's roof damage, so they want to make sure that no one enters the building
Mhm.
because
Right.
yeah, it's unsafe. So, but it's the one right there that you see as you go past it on St. Charles.
And it's presentation last summer. Then wasn't it gifted back to the tribe
Yes,
by,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, but they just need to be able to now make the building safe and usable and things like that. So,
All right, the next discussion item is the land acknowledgement statement. So Ginger's. Is that
It's all me.
No, I know it's a shared agenda, but.
Yeah.
It's two discussion items.
Yeah,
We had talked about land acknowledgement and saying it during Indigenous Peoples Month in November, but your request is.
yes, I really would love for this to be stated every meeting, just like we do the pledge. By reading it aloud and by having meaning behind it every meeting, we're showing more respect to the people that were here. We're creating meaning behind the words, not just the words once in a while. And I think that's making it more than just a ceremony. It wasn't just a one-time ceremony. This is something that we truly believe as a board, as a library, as a community, that we want to make sure that we are remembering and acknowledging the people that were here prior.
Okay, if I didn't make that land acknowledgement ceremony that day, I do remember there was some discussion, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was some discussion about they didn't, or it shouldn't just be a ceremonial, right? There should be some education, some kind of information, some kind of intention behind it, so that it wasn't just words. I don't know how to do that. So
Right.
I feel like, again, this is a discussion item so that we can follow up on it with questions. For the research, I don't know what would be our step. Do you have a suggestion? We do have a state. It's also on our website, if I'm correct, right? Okay.
It's on the board page.
Mhm.
It's something people have to dig for to finally find.
Mhm.
It's not something that the board puts out there
In the forefront.
in the forefront. And in our statement, we explain that we encourage people to use their resources and to find more about the people that lived here.
Mhm.
So that's what we're doing, is we're telling people, go do your research.
Right.
That's your action.
Right.
Take action. Now it's your turn.
Okay,
And if we put that out there all the time, we're adding that meaning behind it.
okay, and is there, I don't think that we've done any more research on it, if it should be something like, is there a way for us to know who we're more specific,
I think, our,
or that we need
did the great statement, the, or what,
David,
um, he did a great job of like doing the research of the different tribes. I wonder if, and I didn't have to do research with you, Ginger, on this, but, I wonder if something like making the statement, but also then maybe highlighting an element of the culture from would be,
Yeah,
the different tribes that were indigenous to this area. Would be-
or something, so something that made, so that one, maybe it can be maybe not on the board page, maybe some other place on the website, so we don't have to dig, we don't have to break it in the state. I don't know if it would work for, but then to attach something to it, some information that provided, some information, some resource that we're, something that I don't know, add some heft to what we're doing, if we're gonna do, it, so that it's not just words. Any questions from other board members?
Can you just read what it is?
Yes, our original statement, the Helen Plum Library Board of Trustees unanimously acknowledges that many indigenous groups once lived on the land where the library now resides. The library invites all to learn their histories, cultures, and peoples. The library board encourages our neighbors to explore learning opportunities through local indigenous-based organizations such as Midwest Soaring Foundation.
No, does it, so it doesn't say what land, what tribes?
No,
As part of that discussion, the determination of that was, more than difficult. There wasn't enough history to indicate
Okay.
who specifically lived here, which is why it's a more generalized statement. Other organizations are able to really identify.
Right.
But that was a challenge in this process.
Last summer, they.
right.
Because that's what I'm accustomed to hearing.
Mhm.
'Cause the concept,
Mhm.
at cultural organizations or universities or even our church,
Mhm.
we say that at the beginning of each service, that,
Right.
so, but it's usually, we acknowledge that that we're located on the blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So I was expecting you to propose that we're doing that, but what you're saying is we don't have enough information to say whose land we are on. This is just a general statement.
Yes.
Pick one or two tracks, we could be.
Exactly.
Yes. We don't certainly say that.
Exactly. And that
My
was,
thought was that it seemed long, but I'd have to hear it again to know if there was anything we could cut out of it, but that was my thought, but I like the concept of it. Because it's certainly something that's done. I think it's a sign of respect, and it shows that it's everything you said resonates.
Well, it sounds like rough consensus, I don't know, we don't have an official consensus, is that we did a thing and we don't want to do a thing and then leave the thing alone for a while. So really collectively, we're looking for options and opportunities to have the intention be at the forefront instead of, we did the thing, check the list. So,
yes.
I guess going forward, let's continue to share ideas about how we can approach this. Whether it is utilizing the statement or an adjusted statement at the top of meetings, incorporating it into something in the space, or having it more prominently displayed on the website with the ongoing kind of
A feature.
feature. Yeah. Yeah.
Go from there.
Thanks, Carly.
regular display that's always available with such feature?
I just don't know if there's a standing display currently. So no, I don't think there is, but
Okay,
that is an option. If we're considering looking at books on, different indigenous tribes, we can consider coordinating that, or at least having it located there.
Mhm.
So there's a clearer intention.
Yes, I love the idea of like what goes beyond the statement, right? So, and I think of us as a place of learning and education and where people can come to learn more. So I love the idea of if we were able to have substantive resources readily available where like, we something, but then like it's going beyond. Like, it's- Yeah.
But also, to the board's credit, if you do move forward on the statement of support for Midwest Soaring, that would be taking this process a step further.
It is, absolutely.
So, yeah.
If we something, it's like, we talk about something different each month, or we have a display, and that's gonna put additional work on staff.
Yeah.
Someone else in the library, so we want the feedback of like, is that something feasible? Do we have the resources to do that? I also think we've had other conversations as a board, about, like art and cultural display,
Yeah.
so is there like opportunity, like those types of
Looking for
opportunities?
partnerships is already that, absolutely, yeah.
So, food for thought.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate
Thank you, Ginger.
being able to bring this up.
Thank you, Susan. Okay. Moving on to the library director. So I missed it. Sorry.
We did receive some community members, in advance of the final, thanking us for the page display and inclusive at our library, so, to be.
Hey, thank you. Oh, my God.
I don't know. I thought, I appreciate that communication that they shared, a personal story, but also one that's full the library staff were, and addressing like a very particular, situation in their family, and that not only the library staff could help them like address that within their family. I think in one of the emails we received, they said that this was information they were able to take back to the school to then provide the school with some information on here's some really inclusive books. So I just want to commend the staff on like, that's really wonderful. What a spread of knowledge from the library to the classroom, and so that was great to see.
So,
Thank you.
all right.
All right, on that note, I'm jumping ahead of my list, and I do have quite a few things for you today, so. Before we lack in action items and make up for our director's report. Going forward as a point of clarification, I'm going to, I think you noticed with the last email, when there's a communication that comes from an individual to the board and to the director, I'm gonna copy everyone. I was a little hesitant to do that because I was worried that would kind of start some conversation. But then I realized I was overthinking it, and copying everyone makes it a little bit easier to know that at least we replied. So if you start seeing that you're CC'd on this, that is why. Thank you. And then again, if I'm not copied, if the board president or secretary could reply, that's great. Work it out between yourselves. All right, I'm going to the top of my list. Sarah Plassman has resigned as executive assistant. Her last day as executive assistant, I know. Her last day will be June 7th, but she is going to stay on as a sub to help bridge as we're training a new person and also cover when the board needs a little extra coverage. So she's staying on as a sub, but cannot stay on as executive assistant. So we are very appreciative of Sarah's work here and her professionalism and positive attitude and all those wonderful qualities she has. So
She stepped in, you know.
she stepped in and she stepped up. Yeah.
Well, no, she stepped in and hit the ground running.
Yeah.
It was seamless.
Yeah.
Right.
Beautiful time.
Right, exactly. And Sarah's right there, so I appreciate that she's gonna train.
Yeah, it's very generous of her.
So that adds to your open positions.
Yes, so in summary, for our open positions, we are currently accepting applications for 3 open positions. We are interviewing for 5 additional open positions, but the applications have closed. And then we have hired 2 YS seasonal assistants. So it will be a very busy season for Michelle Bauman in HR business office, onboarding all of those staff. And I am very grateful to our management team who have worked for, coordinating some welcoming efforts so that staff are getting, access to everything that they need in a much cleaner and more, thorough, I think is the word I want to look at, as opposed to wait a minute, do you have this sign in yet? It's much more documented and shared out and a better process overall. So with those new folks coming on, we'll have our work cut out for us, but we're getting there. The Lilac Parade, there were no major incidents. The pinwheel wall did help guard our plants. Allison, I'm sure you remember from last year, we were very concerned about our plant babies.
I was.
But we had those strategically placed purple pinwheels that were a little bit smaller than we intended, but were completely effective. So the plants are in good condition.
The time frame of staff
It
was,
was- And in fact, the parking lot did get pretty full, but for staff, no one had an issue parking. We had them start a little bit earlier. And then once the roads were closed, nobody could get in here anyway, so it was what it was.
good.
And then for folks using the library in the more traditional sense, it stayed relatively quiet in the building. There were quite a few people watching through the windows, including my own kiddo who sat in the corner of my office, providing really lovely comments. And it was actually the first parade he had attended, so he did comment on the noise, and I'm like, well, aren't you glad you're inside? And it was cute. We are still accepting bingo cards, so if you didn't turn those in yet, you can drop them at the front desk, there's a basket.
I have a question.
Yes.
I feel like it was a missed opportunity for us not to be in the parade. I had a couple different people ask me, like, why, oh, didn't see you guys in the parade, and I know I said before.
Yeah.
There didn't seem to be interest, or you said it's a staffing issue.
So the
And
question
I
is,
said, as a trustee, I sprayed water into kids' mouths for the marching band. But I would have done
critical-
otherwise. I just feel like, you know, having a parade was great, and I'm glad we did that. But, you know, going to summer reading and just not having, it's such a new, we have our new building, it's the biggest community event of the year during my lifetime, and to not have the library actually represented in the parade, it seems like a miss to me.
I'm looking for any other.
Well, I know we probably didn't do it last year, and I get we're still dating it all. I don't think it's a forever thing. I'm hoping that one day when we have our little vehicle, we're back in it. And, you know, it's not like a tour float, it's just our presence is back in it. But I understand it's not. It doesn't have to be this year, it doesn't have to be next year. But again, you know, one day in the future, to see us back in, and that's really all I feel about it.
Yeah, I guess, like I said, when you brought this up before, the concern is that if the building is open, it's for the benefit of the community and it's active during the parade, for staff to try to split time between opening the building in addition to staffing a float. It's just, it's a bigger challenge.
Float, but even if it were.
Even if it is.
Couple trustees, like.
It feels like
a
a
staff, like.
Ben.
Well, I am open to ideas for approaches to the parade for next year. But I think we need to think a little bit more outside the box in terms of what does that look like? Because typically when we have a float, the staff do all the design work on it, they put up the things, and it's a big process, right? And then we get a number of staff that work that day on the float and all of those things. If we have the library open and we're doing bingo and we've got other activities related to lilac time leading up to it, the concern I have is overburdening staff that day specifically. So if there are ideas for alternative methods to participate, like down the line, if we get an outreach vehicle, here's the outreach vehicle, here's a band, there's.
Maybe to do something that staff.
But in lieu of a float, what will we do?
Even, like I said, even just having some trustees, some volunteers, some people, and obviously that's not our job to make, you know, but I also want to say like, okay, now this is a good idea, figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, like, I appreciate that. I just feel like for the biggest community event of the year, it's, you know, missed not to be there, even if it's, you know, it's a perfect opportunity to announce like our summer reading, to hand out, you know, to produce more of the grapes. I didn't bring them with me, but there was a card. It's even better. I know the newsletter goes out to every house, but a lot of people trash that stuff right away. This is like people in the flesh there. You know, some people are gonna trash that stuff too, but you know, they see, you know, Helen Plum, maybe it is a band that you produce. I don't think it would have to be that much stuff or even that many people to have some kind of presence, because I know. I don't, I think it's a missed opportunity, and I think there's a way to do it out of the box. That doesn't have to be the way it was always done in the past, that's super time cost.
Well, I think we need that idea, you know, it's the, like, what would be supportive of the library's vision and mission and cost effective, and like, we gotta hit all those notes, so
I guess those are
yeah.
some kind of
Some sort
thing,
of thing.
and materials that would be passed out that are, you guys have already done a postcard that announced summer reading.
Yeah,
There's a book that announced summer reading. Volunteers, I don't know if other trustees willing to do that. but
Yeah.
I'll be able to as well.
There are things that would be interested in, even just putting in scout, you know, or families that are interested.
Well, since
Get some that would be,
maybe this kind of start thinking about it, maybe if there are a community organization that would be there, basically with this to maybe take some of the load off the staff. And because I know we used to. I feel like there's a donation from community business for. Yeah, so like, again, thinking outside the box, down
I feel it's tricky because Kristen makes a good point that it's like such a huge community event, but it's also people who are in. Like, they have folks, they have people walking, so I think what's a little tricky is it's like, I feel like if we do it, we have to do a good job, because now it seems to me like it's become so big, popular, that the people who are in are doing something either really neat or really decorative. So I think like, so now it's a good opportunity, but I do think like this is probably something that is like a 6-month planning timeframe at least. To like if we really think the library's gonna do it that day, and we're gonna be in the parade, it's gotta be for helping. I think there would have to be a lot of volunteers, otherwise it seems like it's a big burden. It would be a lot of work on the staff.
I honestly don't feel like. More than a large banner that 2 people are carrying. With. You know. Some kind of postcard, bookmarks. Some volunteers, some family volunteers, the trustees, you know, some staff, that's what my vision is, but. I get it, you guys. Yeah. I don't think that's have to be staff intensive.
even in some of the needs for the library. Maybe that's something that they might be interested in.
Somebody brought up. But so I'm not, you, so I don't know what you're thinking.
I'm not gonna be here next. I would just say, as someone who has participated in the parade, you know, since every year that I have been here, it is a tremendously time intensive thing. You need to be in your location by 10:30 in the morning. You know, the weather sometimes is unpredictable. You know, and you may be in a location, state waiting for a long period of time until you're able to go. It's a long route. So if you're walking, it's neat, would require people that have the good physical ability, particularly if they're gonna be carrying something like a banner. So there's a lot of considerations that will need to be addressed if to do it. I mean, I certainly see where you're coming from, that it is such a pivotal community event, and to not have the library, since they had been there every single year, but it really does require a tremendous amount of effort, and
It
so.
does, but I think it's really important. I mean, you just marched it with the band. It is, it's a pain. You do sit there for a long time. I mean, I sat there. We walked the whole parade and then we walked the whole parade. We had to walk all those kids back. My back hurt afterwards, you know what I mean? It's a lot of work.
And who was there to provide you with water during this experience?
I don't know. I would say that my take is it should be a priority, even as I look here, upcoming summer activities. Lombard Family Pride Fest, we're having places there, farmers market, a place there. All these other things, like those are free, like why are we not having this at the biggest community event? And it is a lot. And it is.
And I think if we can have some careful planning and consideration that doesn't ask staff to be in two places at once, I would look for it. So, but we have to flush this out. We have to think about, okay,
Yeah.
what's our budget for this? What's the target? Do we just rent a flashy car and let's say, yeah.
With something that says summer reading and.
That's the thing, people sit and they're only gonna see what is.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's what's tricky. That's the problem. There's a certain number of people that are here.
But I think we can give ourselves time and volunteer and like scope this out, so it's not on the staff. I do, like, it is a huge, it's very hard to do all.
What they ask then is from me to the board is if you are very interested in this, own it. Right? Like we can I can work in partnership with the board on this, but let's not ask staff to do both things. If that makes sense. And marketing will participate because that lends itself to a parade anyway, but
I guess.
yeah. Yes.
Because I think it's an important marketing opportunity for the library. I said before, I would be in it, I would try to recruit as many, but I would have to think, I would have a comfort level with going to I wouldn't think it's reasonable to ask the marketing department to do.
Oh,
If it's like I want to be in a position, say, hey guys, this is what I need, like, that's not my job, you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Scope of a committee? Or could there be like a temporary committee that's created that is responsible?
Yeah.
That's what it's happy, prior to me. So to help these guys get through till, to get the wheels in motion. Having the experience.
And then, so get feedback. Right. This is reasonable, it's too expensive, but what about this idea? Like.
And I think we do have a lot more visitors here in the library. There's a lot more groups that are participating and doing things in this library. And I think if it kind of becomes standard practice to say, since you are somebody that uses the library a lot and your group is participating, we would love to offer the opportunity to partner with you to join us at the parade and be part of our contingent, and I would recommend still getting the floaters, so that people don't have to walk and, people can just sit and
Yeah.
ride.
I mean, today it's 85 degrees or something. Yeah. So. See, like, can it fall under the scope of the committee? Is it in the purview of the board if we've decided this is important to us enough to create a committee that is in charge of this, and then that committee would work directly with you both in the way that all the other committees function?
Sure. Yeah.
Talk about next week.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I feel like this is something that I feel is important, obviously, there won't be.
activities of the library, because it's a big event and anything can happen. We now have 2 years' experience in this for the parade. As previously stated, there were no major incidents, so, yeah.
Observation, I don't know if this is just unique to me being more aware, because it seems like some things changed during the pandemic where people spent more time outside and outside activities, like, I feel when I first moved to Lombard, I didn't know the park being that busy for the Christmas lighting 7 years ago or years ago, and it was like getting off the train and not being able to find parking. I wonder if Lombard has gotten traffic as people during the pandemic look to do things that. Inside, like, Lombard has this great free park with this and free that, and also has this really good. Because it seems to me like some of these outdoor activities are much busier and bigger than it used to be 10 years ago.
The parade has always been huge though. It's like and that's part of it, I think. It's a huge tradition in Lombard, like the princesses.
The princess.
Are like, it's a big deal. That's why, but.
It's true. I wonder if it's even because like, I don't 10 years ago, not being able, like getting off the train.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
All right, I'm gonna go back to my list.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kristen. We do have some upcoming outreach events. If you know you want to participate, I have a little chart, I can mark it on here. Otherwise, send me an email at your earliest convenience. We got we were vaguely referencing these. It was in my submitted report. There's the Family Pride Fest on June 2nd. We're going to be at the Farmers Market on June 11th. The Multicultural Art Fair on June 15th, and then Cruise Nights in July. So if you're available for any of those days and want to help represent the library at those events, please just let me know. You can tell me today, or you can send me an email. I also wanted to mention that I will be away from the office beginning on Friday, and I'll be returning on June 3rd. I will probably periodically check my email, because otherwise what I come back to is more than I want to come back to. But if you don't get quick responses from me, that's why.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kids are off school, we're gonna enjoy it. And I'm gonna pass around. I'm going to speak quickly about this document that I'm passing around, because it's a long-term project for us. Not to, here we go, this way, you go, Ginger. So, as I'm sure you guys are all aware of, our strategic plan is coming to a close this year, which means we need to start opening our strategic plan for the next cycle. And this is extra. Yeah, I had a bunch of copies just in case. What I have developed here is a draft of my intended timeline. And I'm sharing this with you as just an FYI, what does this process look like for the organization as a whole? So we are officially in phase 1, the learn, ask, and include phase. If you jump to the second box under community surveys, we are already in the middle of the awareness and user patterns survey, which closes at the end of the month. We have 3 additional surveys planned, and the dates for those are noted there. The strategic planning for the organization is the management team. We'll be doing a SOAR analysis in the first quarter of next year, once we have some data from the surveys, just for ATM to get the process going, and also to train managers on how to do their own SOAR analyses within their own departments, with different managers leading for different departments. Hopefully that makes sense. But we've been doing a lot of internal work, as well as reaching out to groups and community focus groups. We will have a more detailed introduction in January of next year. Just so don't feel like you have to process all of this information now. I just want to let you know what you're getting into and where we'll be at by the time we really start diving in. Part of that will be the assessment as to where we were and how we got to where we are. So really reflecting on the goals from the last strategic plan and seeing the progress that we have made, and maybe areas where there's room for growth and development. We'll do our own SOAR analysis. It's a relatively simple process, but I do think it's very effective. The meeting for that will be
it'll be, you know, tacked onto a board meeting. We will do some focus groups. I don't have a clear vision yet of how we will pull those. I think you know, we talked a little bit with John Larkin and Bijal Patel at the last decennial committee meeting to see if they would help kind of recruit different parties to go with a community-based focus group. Earlier this, maybe it was last month, I don't know, time has meaning and I've lost it. But I participated in a focus group for the Park District, which I think, yeah, I think it was a really important process where local leaders and community organization folks came together to talk about the park, do a quick analysis and say, okay, what are they doing well? What do we want to see? You know, what's the vibe from the community? And really not just local leaders, but community groups, different geographic areas, really try to get a measure for some in-person conversation. I am debating right now whether that's something that'll be library-led or if we will contract with someone like Amanda Standerfer, who ran some of our strategic planning initiatives prior to this, just to get kind of an unbiased report of what's discussed at such meetings. I expect we'll do some open house style meetings as well, where people are just welcome to come in and provide some feedback. When we were reflecting on strategic plans in the past, we wanted to make sure that we have the opportunity for a cleaner feedback cycle. And one of the pieces that didn't feel as fully closed as it could have been was that we had a plan, the staff reviewed the plan as the planning committee reviewed the plan, the board reviewed the plan. The management team presented the plan to staff and then we got going. And it was a pretty clear-cut plan, get to the new building, expand the services, right? Survive and do the thing. But when we're looking at the community component, we really want to make sure that we're circling back to the community to say like, okay, here's what we came up with. Does this actually make sense? What did we miss? So there'll be a little opportunity for some editing and additions potentially. Yes. And then we will do the big approval when this is all done. I expect that this will take at least through 2025. I don't necessarily want to rush the process. A strategic plan can be a 5-year plan. It could be a 10-year plan. I like a shorter plan because we like to get things done.
Actually, I've lived decennial plan before.
No, it's gonna run out of here. Or what the community is gonna need in 7 years,
Right.
so. Technology changes, communities change, are we gonna get that outreach vehicle, what about solar panels? How many partnerships do we wanna develop, so all of these wonderful things that we have to look forward to, but really just listening to the community. To understand what we need, we're optimistic about the approach to surveys, breaking it out into smaller surveys as opposed to one larger one. We're hoping to get more participation that way. So we'll see how it goes, but take your time reviewing this document. I'm not expecting anyone to be well versed in it by the time we meet to discuss this in more full, but I just wanted to make sure everyone had a clear vision of, or at least some vision of what my plan is. But I put it in a chart.
Service.
So the community survey series starts with the awareness and user pattern, which is a live survey now.
Right.
And then there's 3 additional surveys. So focusing on customer service, focusing on physical and digital collections, and then finally the program assessment.
Are those in here? I'm sorry.
Those are on the first page. You know, I think in Excel spreadsheets, so that is how I presented it. I'll do color instead. Please refer to teal. So program assessment is last because we want to make sure that our program lineup is fully out there and open, in particular in a certain space across the hall, which does have some programs lined up for this coming month. We've got some drop-in cricket programs and drop-in sewing programs and some plans for more classes and things coming up pretty quickly, so.
And, you know, I know from where my mom lives, food and desserts are huge.
Well, and maybe we can get some really solid feedback from local businesses by providing food from said local businesses. What can I do for you? Also, please provide cupcakes. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Bites, you know.
You know, you kind of really have to. Yes, here is our survey. We really would like you to participate in this. Uh,
But also going closer to where people live in pockets where people are less likely to visit the library. Partnering with other organizations to use their spaces to be present, even in the schools, other things, so. We have a lot of opportunity in the next year and a half to really get this going, and the timing, frankly, I think is really great for us, because we're still a brand new building, and we're still opening new services. And, yeah, the attention is there, let's use it. All right, I did have a flyer that I was gonna leave for you guys that was shared with us from another community group in case you're interested in attending an event. There's an RSVP. It is not a library event, but it is hosted in the library. It's the modern history of Palestine. So if anyone is interested, I will put it in the center of the table. I said I would share that, so that is available for you. Any other questions from me about the 30,000 topics we just covered?
This isn't a question, it's just something to share. Well, actually, first question, the exhibit you have, that you mentioned last time, is it
Maps?
D, the
With, the Arboretum, yes,
Is that coming?
September,
yes,
Okay.
And
And
these
how
are-
long does it stay?
about a month.
probably not.
Oh,
They're pretty
That,
flexible.
we'll just have as long as we want.
oh, okay. So I was mentioning, because someone mentioned me, at the GFABs, that is, okay. Sorry. London East Finance Board, so I'm on it. And so representative of all the music, theater and finance stuff at East, at Cumberland East. The fine arts person, followed up after the last meeting and asked, does the library have interest in partnering with the high school about
Yes.
with the art students? And I said, oh my gosh, yes.
Mhm.
Talked about that a little bit before. So they're eager to do that whenever we are ready to.
Great.
So she talked about, she even brought up, would there be an opportunity for the students to sell their work? And he said, probably
I
not.
wanted to review that policy, and it was kind of an option. I say kind of because we were very hands-off about it at the old building where people could have, I think there was a sort of photography display that offered them for sale. I don't know how.
What they
successful
did
it
at
was,
the
but it-
Arboretum is they have the works priced,
Yeah,
but they can't, the Arboretum and the group would not sell them. They had an outside group
Right.
that would do the
Yeah.
transactions. That was,
yeah, or maybe.
you can go to the school and get it, or, see, maybe if it's a fundraiser for the,
Yeah,
It's such a thing, but they're sure that the life transact.
Correct.
Money.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so anyway. If we should do a follow-up or connection on that now, we should just get them interested and.
let's get this map exhibit
Yeah.
up, right? So we can really see, and I think that will be an opportunity for this group and other art teachers and anyone who supports visual arts to come and see what we can do.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to envision when I'm showing a rail. And then it's like, and you're doing stuff, right? But it's like, we want to see the stuff and then we can have a vision for what we can do going forward. So. I think that was.
Yeah, and she's like the parents
Mhm.
facilitator, but it probably would be also the art teachers that
Yeah.
would come out.
Well, and I think even like a longer term display for students is a real opportunity for the community as a whole.
Yeah,
Because often the displays are a single weekend and it's like a really fast and furious process for everyone involved, including the people putting up the display, but if it's a longer standing exhibit, you get a lot more fiction and it gives kids a real feel for what it means,
yeah,
right? To have something of yours.
yeah. And it was very.
Oh, yeah.
a little opening,
Sure,
something.
which we're gonna model with this first one in September, so.
You know, in the old building for many, many years. Friends of the library had artificial trees, Christmas trees.
Yeah,
Like 30 of them. And then organizations would come in and decorate them like they do at the zoo. And then people would vote who had the best, trees. And they were stationed around when you walked into the library and through what originally used to be the corrals.
Yeah.
So, they were kind of spread out, making people walk in the library. But then the trees kind of got, oh, I think, storage became an issue. People.
Does the park still do that in Alicia, where they had trees decorated, like scout groups would do it and?
None in my.
It's been a couple years now.
St. Charles does that for their festival weekend.
Okay. I'm done.
And you just had a question about the, security camp.
Yes. Yeah.
This is the first time I saw it in the meeting, that we were having a trouble with.
Oh, so,
Was it getting broken?
no, there was a repeated incident that we wanted to try to identify who was responsible for it. So we had the temporary one installed and we're able to identify it. But I will say there are things happening in the library all the time. It's not unusual for incidents to happen here. And I really try to keep the board informed with things that are more critically needed, as opposed to, well, staff handled the thing today. That's really part of what we do. And it's kind of incredible what we handle, but yeah, so in that case, we had a blind spot in the hub. And we're fixing that because we're like, wait a minute, we can't see this whole region not going into the restrooms, of course, but in front of that space, we didn't have any. We had a big blind spot, so we installed something temporarily to resolve that. And we're looking for a more permanent solution. So we don't have blind spots going forward.
Because I know we used to have a little vandalism problem. We had the homeless and the old building.
We have all sorts of things happening and most of them are kind of like, yeah, we're a public building. These things happen. And thank goodness we have an amazing team and trained staff and facilities that are ready to clean things up right away. And yeah, so handled well and now it's over, hopefully.
Thank you. Anything else?
Well, I was going to ask on pages for Alex. There is, I'm noting here that you won something again. Yeah, tell us about that. Yeah.
Next time ALA's in Vegas. No, so at the PLA conference, I was talking to a vendor and didn't even realize it entered in the draw. We were scanning pamphlets. If anybody, is there a book vendor, someone we might potentially look at some of their services in the future. And unbeknownst to me, they were raffling off a mobile full pickup locker. It has like 8 locked compartments with code that can be set for each one. So the intent is that you could put material and the patrons could pick up, you would just send them the code.
Yeah.
So that's going to be delivered sometime soon. The actual unit is actually a display model that we're using at other state library association conferences around the country, but I think it's in Texas now, and we'll be coming here after that. Haven't figured out quite what we're planning to do with it yet, since it's not something we were expecting to receive. It's probably a little bit small to be used for like off-site holds, because again, it only has 8 compartments, but.
But as a potential test model to see if that's something the community is interested in, I think it's a lot easier to commit to. We've talked about library lockers and the concepts, but to actually see it in action, I think would be really eye-opening to the community, particularly during our strategic plan phase.
I feel like I want to go like. That's awesome. That's fantastic.
I thought that was great that we were working on plants. That's awesome.
Yeah.
To see that.
Yeah, quite a few. And there's still so much room for more. So.
Yeah.
but adding a little more color, a little light. Um, John in facilities said when he had taken the plants out of the box and they were almost sitting on the island, he goes, you know, they were there for a couple days until we figured out exactly where everything was going. We had a plan in place, we just had to get it in. So they're kind of moving in that space and someone was making jokes like, the jungle is the air cleaner. And he's like, by day 3, I was convinced the air actually was cleaner. So like, plants, so like, it was just kind of.
That's about the Lego club getting a home. That was.
Yes.
It's great.
It's good.
Well, and the Lincoln Club is still mostly from donations made, you know, 8 years ago or so. And the community at the time was so generous, I think we've outfitted 2 other libraries with this. Yeah, because I'm sure folks had them just kind of collecting dust and they're like, please.
Well, that's great, because it also seems like there's been so much good content on social media, and it seems like that could lend itself easily.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, cool. I think we're at the end. We have a motion, all in favor, say aye. Adjourn. Thank you.
Thank